So welcome to the video. In this video I'm going to show you how to glue your tiny whoop frame together, your carbon fiber tiny whoop frame that I sell. This frame is really tough. It's a really good aftermarket frame. The ducts are made from nylon, so they're super tough, very bendy and flexible, but not too flexible so that they don't bend too much in a crash, but they bend just enough. So you can buy this frame pre-glued, but if you choose to go with the not glued version, this should show you some techniques I have for gluing it together. Although it is pretty straightforward and not too hard to do, there are a few techniques that I've found on how to put it together. I'm also going to go over later in the video how to install your motors, camera, flight controller, all of that. That way you'll be able to watch this video and hopefully build up your entire quad from this video. But the main focus of this video will be how to glue the frame together. So this frame is available in many different colors, and these colors are subject to change, so you may be watching this now and some of these colors may not be available. But right now, as of when this video is published, all these colors are available on my website. Link in the top of the description. And please, if you want a special color, go ahead and shoot me an email or send me a message on Facebook or something and request a color, and I may decide to, if I get enough requests, to go ahead and produce that color. So I'm using a medium CA. This is the brand and everything. I'll have the link for this in the description of the quad on my website and in the description of this video. This is very good. You probably want medium CA. Fine. A finer CA would probably be a little too liquidy and not work as well. Thick would probably be a little too thick, although I could see thick working alright. I recommend medium. I really like this glue. It holds up really well. You also really want some Accelerant. This is the stuff I have. I'll try to find some of this on Amazon or something and link that also if I can find it. I got this from Hobbytown a long time ago. This is a big bottle. I have it in just this little spray bottle I dump some into. This stuff is really helpful when doing this. It makes it a lot faster and saves a lot of time. It would be really hard to do without this. I definitely recommend some kind of accelerant for your glue. So we are going to start. We're going to go ahead and open the glue bottle. Make sure it looks clear. You may need to poke something down there if it's stopped up. We're going to start by just gluing one corner of the frame. And by the way, I do have wax paper down. You really should have that. So you should have a little scrap to wipe off excess glue. So I'm going to tear a little corner off. Got that there. So we're going to start by one corner, and then we are going to glue a couple times and slowly wrap it around, gluing it. We're going to continue to glue it each probably 2 or 3 times. We're going to add glue and work our way all the way around till it looks like this. This has already been glued. It should look like that, pretty smooth on the bottom, and it should hold up really well. Something to note, the main stress points where the glue can come undone, and I've had it come undone before, is at the corners here. You want to make sure you put extra glue there, but be careful not to get too much glue like up on the ducts themselves, because if you get glue up here, it makes them more brittle and to where they can break, because as you see right now, this is nylon. It's very flexible. It's not too flexible though, so it holds up in a crash, especially when it's been around like this, but it will bend over, as you can see. So it has enough flex that it's not going to break easily at all. So, and also, all of it is nylon, all the 3D printed parts except the motor mounts. These are made from TPU, and that works the best to give you a nice snug fit and a little bit of, it adds a little bit of like give. If you crash, your motor will bend a little bit. It won't mess up your motor or shaft. So TPU is the best for that. So that's why I use TPU. But back to gluing this. You want to make sure you get a nice even amount of glue all around the duct. All around where the duct mounts. So we're going to start with one corner. We're just going to add, and sorry my camera doesn't focus too well up close like this. So we're just going to put a teeny bit. See, I got a little much, so I'm just going to take this. I'm going to go ahead and spray some accelerant on where I'm about to glue. That way this will dry more or less instantly. You don't have accelerant, super glue does take a minute to dry. So I'm just going to hold that on there for a second. See, it's already dried because I sprayed the accelerant on this. The other thing you can do is take a pliers and squeeze it together and then spray some accelerant. But I like spraying it on the duct and then going from there. After that, I spray it on the carbon and the duct as I glue more. So this time we're going to glue, I'd recommend going about to there, especially if this is your first time. I've gone further before, I'll do the whole thing after this all at once, but if this is your first time, we're just going to take it easy and just put a nice even amount, not too much though, around. We're going to pull it together, making sure it's nice and even. I'm going to hold that nice and snug, just eyeball it, make sure it looks nice, and I'll warn you, you will get super glue on your fingers. So you can see it's nice and flush. Then we're just going to take the accelerant, spray some on there. Should be dry instantly pretty much. Now we're going to do that, probably most of it, maybe not the last teeny bit. I may just go for it and do the whole rest. I would recommend going slow. I think I got a little bit much. We're just going to wipe some of that off. That's why you have that extra bit there. So I already got super glue all over my fingers. That's quite normal. So we just need to hold it there. This is where maybe 2 people is helpful. And we're just going to spray that while holding it on there. So you should be able to see. My camera will focus. See, I can get it to focus. Not sure that will. No, well. But you can see it's a nice flush the bottom of the carbon. It's good to have a razor blade. You can take a razor blade and kind of just clean up any glue that's like sticking out or anything. Or if maybe you got the ducts a little too far out, you can just cut that excess off, save a little weight. Will help, because the more super glue, that's the other thing. Be easy on your super glue. Try to get enough so it's a nice even covering. But the more super glue you put on it, the more it's going to weigh. It's not a drastic difference, but it will make a difference. So you need to repeat this process for the other 3, and I will get back after I've done that. Just take your time, be careful, and like I said, I do offer this pre-glued if you don't want to glue it. One of the reasons I offer it that way, to where you can glue it yourself, is because some people may like to use this frame without ducts. It would be about a gram lighter, or maybe a little more than that. It's going to be probably 1.5 grams. Not totally sure, to have to weigh the ducts, but it's probably 1.5 grams to 2 grams lighter if you didn't do the ducts. And if you want something super light, you're not going to have the effect where you can bounce off stuff if you don't do this. But you will have a really lightweight quad. And on the version 2 of this frame, I've added more material around the edge here. There's still not a ton. It's enough to where I think it would be plenty strong if you used it without the ducts. So it would work without the ducts. So I'll get back with you after I've glued the rest. Okay, so we are done gluing the ducts on, and like I said, you can scrape any glue on the bottom excess off. Just carefully scrape it off, however you want to do it. Take some sandpaper too. Another thing to mention is if you mess up on a duct, like align it wrong, you should be able to just pull it off. It will peel off kind of. And you should be able to just scrape the glue off with either a razor blade or sandpaper. Scrape all the glue off and re-glue. Should be alright. Just be very careful not to try not to break the duct. Which is pretty hard to do, as they are made from nylon. so they are very tough. Okay, so we're going to move on to the battery mount. So the battery mount here, and basically how this is going to work is you're just going to put a bead of glue, just very, waiting for it to come out here, just very small amount on each side. You're going to push it on, just line it up perfectly. Placing your accelerator, and there you go. That is your battery mount installed. This should work with any standard Tiny Whoop batteries. Nice snug fit, should work really well. And now you're left with the motor mounts here. These are one of the most tricky parts. You're going to want something with some kind of tip that's small to push with. I'm just using needle nose pliers. You're going to look at the motor mount, and you probably can't see in the video well, but you'll be able to tell one side of it is smaller. The diameter has a slight little groove there, and then the diameter is smaller on one side than the other. Smaller side gets pushed up like this into there. So you're going to kind of bend it over and put just one corner in. You're going to take your pliers while holding, important, your fingers should be on top to support the carbon there. You don't want to put too much pressure around here, or you could potentially break the carbon if you put too much pressure. Very careful. One finger here, push with the other finger, and then kind of push it up in there. It's fairly easy to do once you get the hang of it. It's not really that bad. Once you get it going, push gently, very gently. You have to kind of push it around with the pliers like that. And we'll go on to the next one. I do include 4 extras of these, and the reason for that is because if you take the motors in and out enough times, they do get a little bit looser. The motors, I've never had one come out of these. They are a very snug fit. While not being too hard to push them in, they're not too hard to push in, the motors, which is the next step. But they do, after a while, they will get, if you're like continuously swapping motors a lot and all, it is nice to have another set. That's why I include 2 sets of the little motor spacers. Like I said, these are made from TPU, so don't worry about bending them. They should not break, and you do have extras. Even the pre-assembled kit does come with extras also. So the pre-assembled kit and the unassembled kit are pretty much essentially the same as far as what they come with. So we're going to move on to the electronics. It's pretty much the only electronics that you need for this thing. 4 motors, camera, if you want a camera, you don't have to use one. Flight controller. I already have the sticky tape together, which is basically what I found the best way to secure everything. It's lightest and it holds really well. I've never had it come off. I also sticky tape the flight controller to the frame. I think it adds a little bit of vibration dampening, and it is lighter than having screw holes. This frame does not have screw holes for the flight controller, and that's because it adds weight. You don't really need it. You can use sticky tape, works just as well. So the sticky tape I recommend is this M3, the gray stuff with the red tape. You'll find this in Walmart in the section with tape and stuff. And you can also get it on Amazon. I'll have it linked in the product profile and description. And this stuff works really well. It's very sticky. They do have one that's rated for higher weight, like more weight, and it actually doesn't work as well. I recommend the gray stuff. It works the best. It's good for vibration dampening, and it's very sticky. Haven't had things come off like the flight controller. I haven't had it come off. So, you need a razor blade. I'm just going to cut 2 semi-thin strips. You don't need to go too thin. Just peel them off. You go to the bottom of the flight controller, stick, these are a little long, so I'm just going to cut this one short. Just going to stick one like that, push it down real well. And take the next one, go ahead and cut it. It's not quite as long. So go ahead and remove the little plastic off the tape. And by the way, if you're installing the camera, I just double it up on the front. That way you can get a little bit of angle out of it. Works very well if you want angle. So bear in mind that your battery mount needs to be in the right orientation when you put the flight controller on. You're just going to line it up just nice and square on the frame. And then just a little bit of pressure, kind of squeeze it, rock it back and forth. A little bit of pressure just to push down on that. And you should have a nice, very nice connection there. That should hold up really well. You can just run your antenna. I like to just run mine right in there. Works real well. This is the Beecore flight controller. That's what I recommend. It's really a good price. It's like $30, and for what it is, it's an F3, runs Betaflight. Right now, this is what I recommend. In the description of this video could be different because something new's come out, but at this point, what I have in the description of this video and on my website are what I recommend. So the motors, quite important the orientation you have them. For the Tiny Whoop, the motors are different. They have different color wires for their different rotations, and if you run these motors are made to be run in a certain direction, so you can't run them backwards. On Betaflight, it's different than the stock Inductrix. The props spin like this and like that, and the same on the other corners. So your one with the red wire goes in the front left. So we're going to go ahead and do that. This is one of the trickiest parts to this, getting the motor in. I like to just hold my two fingers like this, putting pressure. You need to be careful not to put too much pressure on the corners here of the carbon, because you could potentially break them if you did push them hard enough. I kind of doubt you would, but it's possible, I suppose. You're going to just kind of push up until it slides in. It should slide in just fine. If you're having trouble, take a hairdryer or heat gun and just heat it up a teeny bit. It should slide right in. They're pretty snug fit. See, I get a little high. You want the top of the motor to be flush with the top, the 3D printed part, like that. And you can go ahead and take like some little rubber bands, hold the wires on. Now, people have asked, I don't have anything on the bottom of the motor. At one point, I was going to have little the motor mounts that came all the way down and around, but this added significant amount of weight. So I went ahead and just went with the little spacers, and I like to just take some. Let me see if I have it here. Okay, here it is. This is what I like to use. Liquid electrical tape. This stuff is really awesome. I recommend getting it. You can get it at Lowe's, Amazon, I'm sure, wherever. Just take some of it. Go ahead and open it up. You can see it's just this liquid stuff. You can take it, put it on the bottom of your motors. Maybe do a couple coats. That will protect the wires and give it a nice padding for when you land. Works really well. So again, we're just going to go ahead and install the rest of the motors. We're going to do a white colored motor on the front right. Just carefully push them in, and there we go. As you see, they're very stiff. They're not going to move much. They have maybe a teeny bit of flex, but that's good for a crash, but they are not going to wiggle around and get out of line. Also, they're going to stay in there. I've never had one of these come out in a crash. They will stay in there really well. Again, if you pull them in and out enough, they could get loose and potentially come out. But I do include an extra set of spacers in case you're swapping motors out a bunch. You can go ahead and swap those out eventually if you think they're getting a little loose. The great thing about these is they are not too hard to get in. They are quite easy to push in. The motors are fairly easy to push in, and they stay in there really well. Don't recommend pushing on the bottom of the motor unless you've done the liquid electrical tape mod, so you could break one of those wires. You can come and squeeze it like this and push in. Works too. So that is how I have it. You see on the back the colors. So this is red, red and blue, white and black, white and black. So now we're just going to go ahead and plug these in. It should be very simple, easy. Just plug the motors in. You got to get the right direction. There we go. Be careful doing this. Like I said, you should go ahead and put the rubber bands, if you have some, on the motors. And there you go. You can go ahead and put your battery in. It should slide right in there. So the battery at the power loop connector, I recommend that if you want a powerful, you're running powerful motors like these. These are the ones from Race Day Quads, the Super Insane. Go ahead and put your props on. As far as props, I'm recommending 4-blade, but 3-blade are really good too. They're just kind of pricey. If you have the extra money you want to spend on them, go for it. But the 4 blades are much cheaper, and the 3 blades have a little more like torque. I'm not sure that they really have more power, but they have more punch. I think the power is very similar. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell, but they may have a little bit less power. But I prefer the 3 blades. Just they're expensive, so a lot of time I don't run them. But anyway, your tiny loop is complete. I didn't go over the soldering, how to solder this. I'll kind of mention that real quick. The GND is ground and VCC is positive. You're going to just wire your positive and negative to everything, either on the top or bottom or both like I have it. And you're just going to have to solder that. If you don't know how to solder, maybe see if you have a friend who can solder or something. But it's actually not too hard. Practice on stuff before. Look up videos on YouTube. You just want to put a little solder on there, get it flowing, then put the wire on there, have solder on the wire, and let it melt real good, and then let it cool, and you should have a good connection. But that is the tiny whoop frame build video. So let me know if you have any questions, any issues with the frame or anything. Just shoot me an email. I'll be happy to help you. Any questions building your frame, just shoot me an email and I'll happy to help you out. Thanks for your business. Thanks for taking time to watch this video.